Good morning, everyone. My name's Tom Richards. I'm an Assistant Chief Constable with the Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. As many of you will be aware, last night, shortly after 10 p.m, detectives from the Serious Crime Directorate charged a gentleman, Callum Wheeler, a 21-year-old man who lives in Aylsham, with the murder of Julia. Julia was found deceased to the south of Aylsham on the edge of Accolt Wood 14 days ago today. Today, I continue to appeal for witnesses. I am confident that there were people in the area at the time that we are yet to speak to. It's absolutely crucial. We have an obligation to piece together exactly what happened in the last moments of Julia's life. Today, on the 2-week anniversary of Julia's death, we will be conducting, with an actress and Julia's Jack Russell dog Toby, a reconstruction. The actress will be wearing clothing identical to the clothing worn by Julia on that day. She left home shortly after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Her walk would typically take 30 to 40 minutes, and you'll see parts of that route today. Once again, I appeal to anybody who's seeing this footage today, remembers anything at all that could be of assistance to the investigation, to help us piece together those last vital pieces. So what you'll see today is the actress and Toby leaving the area of her home address and entering a pathway. You'll then see her exiting that pathway through some bushes onto the edge of a field. The edge of that field will be the next phase that you will see. That is her typical daily walk with Toby around the perimeter of that field. And finally, you will see her concluding her walk around the field and entering the woodland, where sadly she was found shortly after 4 o'clock 2 weeks ago today. Thank you.
Simon Jones, BBC. Can you confirm that the person you got information about in the picture on Friday last week is the person who has been charged?
So you will appreciate I've got to be very careful with the information that I share. As I've said before, it's absolutely crucial that evidence hits a jury as cleanly as possible in the interests of justice. I can confirm, as you are all aware, that I appealed for the identity of a gentleman in a picture. I'm no longer seeking information, as you're aware, in relation to the identity of that person, and we have now charged Callum Wheeler with this offence, and today is through the use of a reconstruction seeking further witnesses. As stated, I'm confident there are still a small number of people who have relevant information to help us piece together what happened that day.
It's been a difficult couple of weeks for the community, for Julia Jones's family obviously, and for the police. Just how are you feeling with this development?
Yeah, it's been a hugely challenging fortnight. A Category A murder without a suspect is fortunately a very unusual event. It's of course completely natural that the local community have been very concerned about it. It's been a very intense period. I've been incredibly impressed with the patience and the level of support we've received from local residents. We've received a huge amount of information from the public that has helped us reach the point that we are at today. It's of course a great relief to the investigation team, but the work doesn't stop here. We continue with our investigation.
So many people have come forward already, members of the public. Last week you said you've had 1,000 pieces of information. What makes you so confident that there are witnesses still outstanding in that area at the time?
We still have accounts of people in the woods and fields of that area that we don't believe that we've identified. We have members of the public describing events that they've seen on that day. I still believe that there were people enjoying the beautiful countryside in that area, and I would appeal for them to come forward just to help us piece those last moments of Julia's life together.
And this crime's got so much coverage. What do you think might be stopping more people coming forward? Those people who are so desperate to speak to
It's difficult for me to say until I identify who those people are. I think there's always a risk that it was someone who isn't a local resident. As I say, we've had spectacular support from local residents. Their patience and assistance has been absolutely superb. But of course it is possible that someone who was just passing through is less aware of these events, which is why I'm so grateful for the assistance from the press just to extend our reach and draw this to people's attention. So I can confirm, as I previously have, that the search that we have been conducting at an address in Elsham is linked to this investigation, but it isn't appropriate for me to get into fine-grained detail. The evidence from the many searches taking place in and around Elsham and Snowdown will be very, very relevant to the investigation and the presentation of our evidence in court. Again, it's not going to be appropriate for me to explore that here and now. Of course, it's a line of inquiry that we are fully exploiting, and that material will, of course, be shared with a jury and a criminal justice process in due course.
Alex from LBC, what made you come to the conclusion that the person you charged might be linked to the murder?
We had sufficient evidence that we presented to the Crown Prosecution Service yesterday afternoon to lead to them authorising a charge that, I say, was placed by detectives from the Serious Crime Directorate shortly after 10 p.m. last night. We refused to grant Mr. Wheeler bail, and he appears at Medway Magistrates Court this morning for an initial remand hearing. As you would expect, we have specialist officers who are working tirelessly with the family, providing all of the support you would expect. It's a very, very difficult time for the family. They're being hugely supportive of the investigation, bearing up surprisingly well in incredibly difficult circumstances, and I'm really, really grateful for the massive assistance they've provided. As I've said throughout, I will keep all options open. We'll see where the evidence takes us. I'm very pleased that we've got to a point where we have charged a suspect, but we have no blinkers on. We are continuing to search the scene. We will be for some considerable time, and we will follow all of the evidence, forensic or otherwise, wherever it takes us. That is always a consideration. As you're aware, we are utilising a range of experts from the National Crime Agency and elsewhere. That's a large part of our forensic strategy to establish that, and all relevant facts in relation to that will, of course, be shared with a court and trial in due course. Yes, he certainly is, as any family pet is. As I've said a moment ago, the family are hugely supportive of the investigation. We didn't do that lightly. We, of course, considered the impact on Toby and assured ourselves and the family whether that was appropriate. We had alternative contingencies if necessary, but we assessed that as appropriate. We want to make this as realistic and as authentic as possible for the public, because we're really hoping that it will trigger someone's memory about something they saw on the day concerned, or in the run-up to or after the offence.
Sorry, there may have been an error when I was recording, but can I just ask you again, just so we've got it, can you tell us if the person who appealed for information about in the picture, is that the man who was in court?
So I appealed a number of days ago, as people are aware, last Friday, and shared an image with the public. I can confirm that I'm no longer seeking information in relation to the identity of that person. It isn't appropriate for me at this stage to confirm whether that is an image of the charged individual. That evidence needs to hit a jury clean, so that they're not led in any way, shape or form. But today's about an appeal for information through the use of a reconstruction to encourage any member of the public who hasn't yet come forward or remembers something when they see that footage. We would really like to speak to them. So I'm not going to provide a running commentary on the large number of searches. There is still going to be a large and visible presence in this area for some considerable time to come. And as I say, I'm immensely grateful to the public for their patience in relation to that. But of course, every search is seeking new evidence, new information. And that is why you're often seeing a lot of forensic activity in those locations, so that we can exploit every evidential opportunity from that wide-ranging search strategy.
Michael German from PA. Earlier in the investigation, police advised local people to be cautious and vigilant when they were out and about. Has that advice changed in the light of the charge from last night?
As I say, I'm keeping all options open. It's a huge step forward in the investigation and breakthrough that we have arrested somebody. I have no information at this stage to suggest that anybody else was involved in this offence. But as I say, we're remaining unblinkered and we'll follow the evidence where it takes us. But we are not at this stage looking actively for to make any further arrests.
What are you saying about safety to local people? Because obviously there was that advice to keep your phone with you and be vigilant.
I don't think it's the place for the police to give people advice. I think it's sensible that people are aware of their surroundings and are cautious in any events. But as I say, we have made an arrest. I believe and understand that the local communities will feel reassured in relation to that. Kent Police has received a lot of great feedback from the public, which is fantastic to hear. But of course, I'm keeping all options open at this stage, but we are not actively seeking any further suspects at this stage.
Can I ask, obviously, a number of different searches have been in and around the Elsham area. How many other police forces are working with Kent Police?
So we, as we often do in these cases, have requested what we call mutual aid. So it's assistance from a number of forces. We start with forces within the southeast region and then of course can extend beyond that if we're struggling to meet that requirement. All the search requirements I need have been filled at this stage, and further investigative support. It's a number of forces, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to specifically name which forces are involved. As I say, there's been a huge level of support offered by many forces across the country. Naturally, this is a huge priority for Kent Police, and it's apparent to anyone in this area the size of the task, because it's such large rural locations that have to be subject to a fingertip search. So yes, we have taken staff from a wide number of forces, and I'm really, really grateful for that assistance.
Obviously, given the amount of officers from Kent Police that are obviously focusing on research, how has that affected local police in other areas in and around Kent?
We are sadly used to responding to very significant issues, and of course our business as usual and our obligations to the wider community is always at the forefront of our minds. So it's of course cost money, but we've had to ensure, as we always do, that we continue to deliver a fantastic service to the whole population of Kent, and that hasn't been affected by this operation. That's part of the reason why we've taken staff from other forces to minimise the impact on our wider policing service.
Did you say how many pieces of information you've had from the public?
I would have to check actually today. It's been an absolutely extraordinary level of support. It's well in excess of 1,000. I'm afraid I don't actually have today's number. I'll be returning to a briefing after this.